Tokyo, a city synonymous with progress and prosperity, hides a chilling secret from the late 1980s. Behind its vibrant streets and bustling life lies a story of unimaginable horror. Welcome to Twisted Logic. Today we are going to discuss a case so horrific that it shocked the entire nation of Japan and questioned the length of depravity that humans can go to. Junko Faruta was a 17-year-old girl studying at Saitama Yashio Minami High School in Japan. Just like any other normal student, Junko had her own aspirations and dreams which she wanted to fulfill. She neither had the habit of smoking nor drinking. She was also away from drugs. She also used to take part-time jobs to save up some money. According to her friends, she dreamed of becoming an idol singer. Junko, being hardworking and a beautiful girl, was appreciated and liked by everyone in the school and in the locality. One such boy was Hiroshi Miyano. Miyano was an 18-year-old high school dropout. He, along with his three friends, Joe Ogura 17, Shinji Minato 16, and Yasushi Watanabe 17, became involved in organized crime as Chinpira, low-ranking yakuza. They began using Minato's family home in Adachi, Tokyo, as a hangout. Beginning in October, they engaged in various crimes including theft, assault, and rape. On the 8th of November, the group abducted a 19-year-old woman in Adachi and gang raped her in a hotel there. Miyano made multiple romantic advances towards Junko, which she rejected, but on the evening of 25th of November 1988, Miyano and Minato rode around Misato on their motorcycles with the intention of robbing and raping local women and spotted Faruta, who was on her way home from her part-time job. Acting on Miyano's orders, Minato kicked Faruta off her bicycle and fled the scene. Miyano, under the pretense of witnessing the attack by coincidence, approached Faruta and offered to walk her home. Upon tricking her and gaining her trust, Miyano took Faruta to a nearby warehouse and threatened her, claiming to be a member of the Yakuza and saying that he would spare her only if she followed his orders. And what happened to Junko after that became the worst case of juvenile criminality in the country's history. After threatening Junko, Miyano took Faruta by taxi to a hotel in Adachi, where he raped her. He later called Minato's house and bragged to Ogura about the rape, after which Ogura told him not to let Faruta leave. In the early morning hours of 26th of November, Miyano took Faruta to a park near the hotel, where Ogura, Minato, and Watanabe were waiting. They told her they knew where she lived, and that the Yakuza would kill her family if she attempted to escape. Minato agreed to allow Faruta to be confined in a room on the second floor of his house in Adachi, for the purpose of gang raping her. On the 27th of November, Faruta's parents contacted the police about her disappearance. To discourage further investigation, the kidnappers forced Faruta to call her mother 3 times to convince her that she had run away, but was safe and staying with friends. Sometimes during the ordeal, Minato's parents used to be present at the house while Junko was being confined. Faruta was forced to act his girlfriend. However, the group came out with the truth about the abduction with the parents, but the parents decided not to intervene because they claimed that they were afraid of their own son, who had been increasingly violent toward them. On the night of 28th of November, Miyano and the others, along with Nakamura and Ihara, gang raped Faruta, after which Miyano shaved her pubic hair with a razor and used a match to burn her genital area. In early December, Junko attempted to escape the ordeal, but she was caught, after which the group repeatedly punched Faruta in the face and Miyano burned her ankles with a lighter. They forced Faruta to dance to music while naked, masturbate in front of them, and stand on the balcony in the middle of the night with little clothing, and inserted objects into her vagina and anus, including a metal rod and a bottle. They also forced her to drink large amounts of alcohol, milk, and water, smoke 2 cigarettes at once, and inhale paint thinner fumes. In one attack in the middle of the month, Faruta was beaten by the group on the pretext that Miyano had stepped on a puddle of her spilled urine, after which he burned her thighs and hands several times with lighter fluid. From around this time, Faruta, unable to bear the repeated assaults, would sometimes plead to be killed by her captors. By the end of December, Faruta was severely malnourished after being fed only small amounts of food and eventually only milk. Due to her injuries and burns, she had become unable to go to the downstairs toilet, and was thereafter confined to the floor of the room in a state of extreme physical and mental weakness. Her appearance had been drastically altered after repeated beatings, with her face becoming so swollen that it was difficult to recognize her, and her infected wounds had started to emit a foul odor. On the 4th of January 1989, after losing money in a game of mahjong the night before, Miyano decided to take his anger out on Faruta. He ignited a candle and dripped hot wax on her face, placed 2 shortened candles on her eyelids, and forced her to drink her own urine. Faruta was lifted and kicked, fell onto a stereo unit, and began a fit of convulsions. To prevent them from being stained with blood, the group covered their hands in plastic bags before beating her with their fists and an iron exercise ball, and dropped the ball on her abdomen several times. She made weak attempts to put herself out, but eventually stopped moving. Finally, the torturers mutilated her on the 44th day of her abduction. The boys did not spare even the mutilated body and beat with an iron barbell. Later they poured lighter fluid on her face, stomach, legs, and face, and burnt with fire. This final torture went on for around 2 hours, and later that day, Junko finally died, ending the 44 days of depravity and hell. Less than 24 hours after her death, Minato's brother called to tell him that Faruta appeared to be dead. Afraid that their crime would be discovered, the group wrapped Faruta's body in a blanket and placed it in a large travel bag, then put the bag in a metal drum and filled it with wet concrete. At around 8 p.m., on 5th of January, the group drove to a vacant lot near a construction site on the island of Wakasu in Koto, Tokyo, and dumped the drum there. In early 1989, Miyano and Ogura were arrested for their kidnapping and gang rape of a 19-year-old woman in December 1988. When police interrogated Miyano, he falsely believed that Ogura had already confessed to Faruta's murder, and that the police were aware of his culpability, so he told them where to find her body. Police were initially puzzled by his confession, as they were questioning him about the murder of a different woman and her 7-year-old son, which had occurred 9 days prior to Faruta's abduction, case which remains unsolved. The drum containing Faruta's body was recovered on the 29th of March, and she was identified via fingerprints. Minato, Watanabe, Minato's brother, Nakamura, and Ihara were also arrested. The identities of the defendants were sealed by the court, as they were all juveniles under the age of 20. Journalists from the Shukan Bunshin tabloid uncovered their identities and published them, arguing that the accused did not deserve to have their right to anonymity upheld, given the severity of the crime. In July 1990, all were found guilty and sentenced by the Tokyo District Court for abduction for the purpose of sexual assault, confinement, rape, assault, murder, and abandonment of a corpse. All 4 appealed. In July 1991, 3 were resentenced to longer terms by the Tokyo High Court. Hiroshi Miyano was originally sentenced to 17 years in prison and resentenced to 20 years, the longest sentence typically given in Japan short of life imprisonment, which had been sought by the prosecution. Miyano's parents sold their family home and paid Faruta's parents $50 million in compensation, which their son's defense presented as a mitigating. However, Miyano was released in 2009 and changed his last name to Yokoyama. He reportedly boasted about his Yakuza connections and involvement in pyramid scheme. In 2013, Miyano was arrested on suspicion of bank fraud and placing scam telephone calls, but remained silent and was not charged. Joe Ogura was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in prison. He was released in 1999 and changed his last name to Kamisaku. He worked in IT jobs after his release, but turned to organized crime after his past became known to those around him. Shinji Minato was originally sentenced to 5 to 6 years in prison and resentenced to 5 to 9 years. His parents and brother were not charged. After his release in 1998, Minato moved in with his mother. In 2018, Minato was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after striking a 32-year-old man in the shoulder with a metal baton and slashing his neck with a knife on a street in Kawaguchi, Saitama, during a dispute over a vehicle parking spot. Yasushi Watanabe was originally sentenced to 3 to 4 years in prison and resentenced to 5 to 7 years. He further appealed the verdict to the Supreme Court of Japan, but his appeal was denied in July 1992. He was released in 1996 and left his hometown to live with his mother. The saddest part of this Junko Faruta story is that the brutal murderers were neither given the death sentence nor even life imprisonment, as they were all under 18. From the time the case was first reported in the media, Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department, the investigating body, received many calls and letters from the general public demanding that the perpetrators be severely punished, including by life imprisonment or with the death penalty. The Tokyo Public Prosecutor's Office, which had sought life imprisonment for Miyano during the trial, was criticized for not seeking life sentences for the other perpetrators, nor seeking the death penalty. The Tokyo District Court also received numerous calls and letters which criticized the perceived lightness of its sentencing, though a majority of legal professionals surveyed by the Asahi Shimbun newspaper said that the sentences were appropriate based on precedent. Faruta's funeral was held on the 2nd of April 1989. It has been more than 3 decades since this unfortunate incident happened, which resulted in Junko Faruta's death. People still remember the innocent girl and keep her in their prayers. It is really sad to know that very little justice has been done to Junko Faruta's brutal murder. The innocent girl has to go through intolerable pain for having done nothing. Literally nothing.
校長先生が特別に卒業証書を書いてくださったそうですね。これで3年8組、47名。みんなで卒業できました。純ちゃん、もう辛いことも苦しいこともありません。安らかに眠ってください。
コンクリート詰めにされて殺されていた古田純子さん。行方不明となってから4ヶ月後に無残な姿で自宅に戻ったわけです。そして昨日葬儀告別式が行われました。4月から就職も決まっていたわけなんですけどもね、実は昨日なんですが、通っていた高校からの卒業証書がこの日出されてたんですね。
純ちゃん、お帰りなさい。こんな形で再会するとは夢にも思っていませんでした。痛かったでしょうね。苦しかったでしょうね。何も知らずに生活した自分に腹が立っています。いつもおおらかで明るい純ちゃん。文化祭の時みんなでお揃いで作った赤いハッピー、とっても似合っていましたね。一生忘れないでしょう。私たちは純ちゃんの死を決して無駄にしません。恐ろしい犯罪がなくなって平和な日々が過ごせますように、社会人1年生の私たちも努力します。また何か辛いことがあってもくじけずに精一杯生きようとした純ちゃんを思い出して頑張ります。校長先生が特別に卒業証書を書いてくださったそうですね。これで3年8組、47名、みんなで卒業できました。純ちゃん、もう辛いことも苦しいこともありません。安らかに眠ってください。さようなら純ちゃん。八潮高校9、3年8組1号。